All right, we will go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody, and welcome to our Missouri Open Door Technology series for this month. Our topic for today is employment. If you're new to our MONs, these are hosted by UMKC Institute for Human Development and Missouri Assistive Technology. My name is Angelina Alpert, and I am a research assistant at IHD. Today, we're going to go over a brief overview of what Missouri No Wrong Door is, if you're unfamiliar with it. We're going to use the Charting the Life Course Employment Guide to help plan and problem solve. We're going to learn some new ideas and strategies for employment accommodations and hear about some technology options. I also will say, feel free to use the Q&A as a chat type thing, since you don't have access to the regular chat. If there's something comes up as either Scout or I are presenting, I can stop for questions or we can go to them at the end. No Wrong Door is a way to transform the way people access services in the community. Its goal is to support individuals and caregivers to make decisions on complete and accurate information about their options for anybody seeking long-term services and supports, regardless of age, income, and disability. Long-term services and supports is we use it in a broader sense, and that it's more than just the formal paid government long-term services and supports, but things that would be something that anybody would use. Missouri Assistive Technology is one of our main partners on No Wrong Door. And this here is our integrated support star, which I will go into briefly. This is how we structure our open door series, to open doors to integrated supports. So we have personal strengths and assets, which are the skills, strengths, and assets that a person has, knowledge or life experience, things that they're good at. The relationship part of the star, which is family, friends, or acquaintances, anybody that could support an individual. We have eligibility specific, which are going to be those needs-based, formal, government-paid services. We have our other Missouri Open Door series, which is our benefit series, which talks about those eligibility specific ones. Community-based supports are going to be places in the community, parks, schools, groups or membership organizations, local things that anybody has access to, regardless of a disability, regardless of any eligibility requirements. And then we have our Open Door Technology series, which is what you're at today, where we go into personal technology that anyone uses up to assistive and adaptive and environmental technology. So this integrated support star we use as a way to make sure that we are integrating services into an individual support system. And this can be used for anybody, regardless of if they have a disability or not. But for an individual specifically that has disabilities, sometimes those formal government services can seclude them from the community that they want to be a part of and their family. So our goal is to look at all 5 parts of that integrated support star. That way we're integrating the person into the community and family that they want to be a part of. And sorry, looks like we have the, okay. So Charting the Life Course, what is it? Charting the Life Course is a framework and set of tools that help you think differently about your vision of a good life, high expectations, and integrating multiple types of supports. It helps you organize your ideas, visions, and goals, as well as problem solve, navigate, and advocate for supports. So this is where that integrated support star comes from, and some of our other principles that we use. So we're going to go a bit of a different route today, and I am going to show you our Charting the Life Course employment guide. So bear with me as I switch screens here for a second. So as you can see here, this is our Life Course Tools website, lifecoursetools.com. This will be, I will include the downloaded document in the email that gets sent out afterwards so that you have access to it, but you also have access to it through the website. It's going to be under Life Course Library, Exploring the Life Domains, and it's under Daily Life and Employment. And then if you scroll down here to the employment guide, that is going to be the downloaded document that we're looking at. So I pull this over here. It looks like you guys should be seeing it. This is our employment guide. It is one of my favorite things that we have other than the integrated support star. This is a really great document, really helpful. I'm going to go through a couple of things because it is a longer document. But essentially, it's for anybody that's around that transition age to think about what their next steps are, if they want to continue their education, or if they want to go straight into a job, thinking about things like that. Also for the supporter side of things, so if you're supporting somebody through their transition, kind of what kind of things you should be thinking about and at what stages. It has a really great document at the front here that explains more about what charting the life course is and the specific aspects of it, since that guides the rest of the document and the thinking that you use. So this goes through the trajectory towards a good life. So thinking about what you want in life and what you don't want in life and what kind of things are going to lead you in both of those directions. So that's this document that's here. And then it also has a little bit about, why people work, stories from people that are employed. And then the first start of planning for transition would be discovering who. So this is going to be the one-page profile about the person that is planning their next steps. So the things that you're going to focus on are what people like and admire about you, what's important to you, and ways to best support you. And this is going to help you think about what you want your next steps to be and how people can support you through that. This is information about thinking about what you want to do. Do you want to work for a business that already exists? Do you want to start your own business? Do you want to continue your education? And other kinds of things that you should think about when you're considering what kind of jobs you're interested in. This is a really great list of career possibilities. It breaks it down by kind of what your strengths are or what your interests are. So it's got things for doers, thinkers, creators, helpers, organizers. And this is just a starting point if people are needing to generate some ideas about what kind of direction they want to go in or what could be a possibility. We also have discovering how. So these are the different kinds of supports. It breaks down the STAR again and what kind of resources you could have within the STAR to help you reach your employment or education goals. Here is the STAR actually put into the format rather than written out. And then there's a blank one for you filling it in yourself or for the person that you support. These are some generalized resources for employment. And then this last part is for a supporter. It shows the entire lifespan and what you should start thinking about when. So starting to talk about, employment early on, what their interests are. And then transition is where everything really kicks up, trying to figure out what that next step is going to be after school. So that is that document. Let's see if I can get back to the PowerPoint. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Scout now, and he's going to talk about assistive technology for employment.
All right. Well, that was great, Angelina. That it when you're like, this is one of my favorite documents, I was like, oh, let's see what's in there. But it really does have some great supports. Um, so yeah, there's just so many tools. So let's go ahead and look at the assistive technology side of things for employment. Again, we like to go over a couple of these kind of just assistive technology slides. Just defining assistive technology is just a device. Doesn't matter where you get it, how you get it, but if it's helpful to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities for a person with a disability, then it is AT. The other side of the definition is the AT service, which is any service that helps with selecting, acquiring, or using an assistive technology device. So that is the two sides of AT. And we can move on to another familiar slide, which is our battery slide. Just to keep in mind that assistive technology does not all lean on one end or the other, but it is really a continuum from accommodations, a simple way to change something around to make it work for a person with a disability, low tech, which of course is just simple tools, no charging, often no batteries, just light tech, easily affordable, very, very frequently, or mid tech, which might require power, maybe charging, maybe some training, but all in all, something that most people can kind of get their hands on and grasp and then use. And then the higher tech items. They're not all high tech, but there are some amazing high tech devices out there. A lot of those do need training. They often require charging or updating or various other things. They're often more expensive. All right, so that's our continuum of AT. And so I added this one. What is AT for? Well, it's useful in all levels of education, useful in all realms of employment, and useful in any aspect of daily living. So this makes AT basically for anywhere it's needed and useful. So basically anywhere in life. But those are kind of the areas where we break it down: education, employment, and daily living. All right. So because we're focusing on employment today, I'm going to take you through, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but we are going to just talk about what's the process for looking at assistive technology for employment. So we're going to go through kind of the 3 steps of consideration, exploration, and implementation. And really all 3 of these steps are important for success. So let's go ahead and get rolling with consideration. So what is consideration? Basically, if you've got a person with some kind of limitation or disability, and they're doing a job or thinking about doing a job, part of that process for anyone, whether it's the individual or a support provider or even family, can AT be part of the way we think about the capacity to do that job? So that really, that's all consideration is. Is this job possible? Well, is it possible with some supports? And so for whom do you consider technology? And I think this really can get bogged down by who you are. Like there are people who might think, my child doesn't need that, or I don't need that, or my client can do this. And And the thing to remember is assistive technology is just a way to level the playing field. So for whom do you consider assistive technology? Really, anyone that has a limitation. If there is a way that a device can help that be more successful, why wouldn't we consider it? So how do we consider it, and what are the outcomes? So again, it really is just this way of saying, okay, do I want to do this? And then we can decide, do we need to take the next step? So that's where we go. I don't know what's out there, maybe, but we're deciding we're going to learn. And that's part of that, making that decision. I want to learn more. And then we'll see some of the outcomes. So we can go ahead. And often when I go through these steps, I use an example and take it all the way through, but we're really going to save our examples for the end. So after we've said, okay, we're going to consider assistive technology, and then we have to move into exploration. And so our goal for exploration is really to see what is out there that could be a possibility. And oftentimes when we're exploring assistive technology, we bring in partners. And that's part of the reason we have this this series, is because we want more people to be aware of how we can do this process, because most people can use support when you get to this phase of exploration. And so I want to jump to the next slide, which is a framework for exploration. And this is called the SET framework. And this is just one of the ways we can say, okay, how do we break this down? So the SET framework was made by Joy Zabala, and she was working in the schools. So the S in this framework stands for students. We don't change the name, but we just kind of change it to an individual. We still call it the SET framework. So the individual should always be the central focus of this process, not their diagnosis, not necessarily like the boss at the job. Just we keep the individual first and foremost. And then once we look at their strengths and maybe some of their limitations, okay, so that's an important piece. What do they like? Because we wouldn't want to get down to the end, to the tools, and decide on a way to resolve maybe a limitation with something that is not in the individual's wheelhouse. So we really want to take in mind their strengths and their limitations. And then we look at the environment and the tasks. So we'll look at the environment first. Where are they going to be doing this job? What are the factors? Because if they have a task that they're working on in your office that's quiet and well lit, and and then their job is doing that same task in a super busy environment, we might not find the right tool. So we have to take into consideration the environment where they will be working. And then we look at the task. What are the actual things that the person needs to perform, right? And, how do they meet their goal? Does it have to be done this way? Are there options for getting this task done? Because that can really be, how we think about it. And then once we have all those kind of, in place, then we can go to the tools, because then we have all the information to say, okay, this is a tool that might help this particular individual complete this particular task in this particular environment. So anyway, you do not have to use the SET framework by any stretch, but it is just a nice way to kind of break things down and kind of go through that exploration process. So then we start bringing in maybe professionals to say, or just us, to say, what are the tools? You might have a great idea of the tools. You might want more support on the tools. Your coworker might have other great information. Whoever your team is that's looking at the tools, you might go to our website and look at some of the things we offer. You might borrow things from us. So there's all kinds of ways to explore. I think we can jump to the next slide. Right. So say you've borrowed a few devices from us and you have found the perfect tool for your individual or for yourself. Well, we're not done there, right? We cannot stop, even if we find that great fit. We really have to kind of close that loop and work on the whole plan of implementation. So, it is kind of like planning a trip, right? So where are we going to get that device? Maybe there's a funding source. That's fantastic. Maybe we need to work on funding, or maybe somebody is just going to buy that device. And who's going to be responsible for training? Who's going to be that support person? Are there extra resources? Are there YouTube videos on how to use this, how to troubleshoot this, how to implement it? Who is going to be that support person if they need that? Because often just getting a device in hand, as I think any of us do, sometimes if we have a routine of doing something and then something new comes in that you go, oh, that's fantastic. But then you go back to doing it your same old way, and so really, building in those supports, because whether it's a new job or a new way of doing something, often you need extra supports. And then really checking back in to evaluate that effectiveness. So if the whole process is pretty simple, here's the device, person knows how to use it, that's great. But still coming back around to evaluate that effectiveness is just as important as every other step. Because if we've gone through that process to really find the right tool, we want to make sure it's effective. Or is it something they're just kind of like, yeah, I got it and I'm using it. So I think that's the kind of the total of what I want to go through this 3-step process. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, I think, I did have a few tools on the next slide, I believe. Yeah. So what can it look like? I didn't put the names of devices up here, but there is an image of a cloud, and that is just an app. That is actually Co-Writer, so it is a writing support app. So an accommodation for work can be an app either on an individual's phone, on their computer, or on a tablet. There's an image up here of some adaptive scissors. It might be something very low tech, but if it gets the job done, I am always a big fan of starting with the lowest, the easiest thing possible, and seeing if that will work. So it could be something as simple as that. There's an image of a large print keyboard on the screen. That is actually, it's a mini keyboard, so that can be functional in many different arenas. Below that is a magnifier, and I think we're all pretty familiar with magnifiers. This one is just a handheld, although it looks very much like a dome magnifier. So there's a wide variety of magnifiers, and we will talk about magnification in one of our examples. There's a variety of input devices. There is a trackball device on the screen, and really, these things that we kind of say as a standard, like this is a mouse, holding up my mouse, which is a standard mouse. But really, there are so many varieties out there. And we can really, use those as needed to help folks just be a little bit more effective, or a lot. And then the last image on this screen is a C-Pen reader. So this will help folks with learning disabilities kind of make sure they're understanding information that is in print. So we are going to jump through and move to our first example of a woman I worked with a while ago. So, there's an image up here of Professor McGonigal, and she is a professor at a major university. And she is, she's getting up there in age. She's in her late 120s, and she does have macular degeneration. And she has to read a lot. She reads a lot of very old text, and pretty much reads on a daily basis. So when she came to me, she was pretty clear that she's not a big fan of technology. She doesn't use a computer very often, but she does have to read a great amount of text, but did not want to kind of move into that digital realm. So there was actually a couple of us working with her, and so the other person who was working with her was really interested in getting her a screen reader, but she was very adamant that that's not the way she wanted to go. So she didn't want the JAWS, which is a screen reader, didn't even want Zoom Text, which is that more simple version or easier to access version, screen magnification. She also didn't want that. We tried all manner of magnification tools, but as it turns out, Professor McGonigal is a speed reader, and the refresh rate of any kind of digital device was just not enough for her. She's got some skills. And so, we showed her a bar magnifier, which is about the simplest magnifier available. And she really liked that. There's an image of it on the screen, and they come in a variety of lengths. I think the image on the screen is about 9 inches. They come 6 and 9 and maybe longer. And this one has a yellow highlight bar, which she did like. And she could just scroll that down the page kind of at her rate, which, like I said, she's got some amazing skills. And so she could read really quickly. So that worked for her. It was a surprise to the professionals who were helping her, because we really expected her to kind of be on board with something a little bit more kind of like magical and high tech, but that was just not the way she wanted to go. So anyway, so that's Professor McGonigal. So we're going to look at another client that I worked with. Okay, so this guy has a really kind of specific disability. This is Edward, and his hands are very specific. They are like scissors. So but the reason I'm using him as an example is because he was very interesting to work with, because he does struggle with manual dexterity. So his ability to manipulate objects is very limited. And because of that, there's lots of folks who struggle with manual dexterity. So I thought I'd add him in, because what we had to kind of look at to accommodate him was fairly interesting. So his physical mobility, other than his hands, is good. And he wanted to have better computer access. He's interested in writing his autobiography. So it was computer access and also some personal care needs that we were looking at for him. Okay, so we did take into account his personal strengths. He gets along fine with his coworkers. It's just that computer access, which was a little bit at work and a little bit at home. So we will go ahead and look at what we did for accommodations for him. So the switch activated doors were something that were recommended. And just kind of as an aside, so the ADA does not require switch activated doors. I think sometimes there's a misconception that, if you're upgrading your entrance, you must make it ADA compliant, therefore you must have switch access. But really the rule is your exterior door must be, I think it's 5 pounds or less of pressure. Somebody can correct me in the chat if it's really 8, but I think it's 5. So anyway, we did recommend switch activated doors just because it was a lot easier for him. And then the easiest thing to go to is really Dragon Professional Individual. So this is voice to text. And this seemed to work out really well for Edward. He liked the idea of being able to voice that text, and ta-da, there's everything. So it helped him at work, helped him at home writing his digital text. And then, we had the choice of a head mouse or a foot mouse. He does have, like I said, good access, physical access with the rest of his body. So he was interested in the head mouse. So we looked at the glass mouse. This is something that needs glasses put on. We also tried the foot mouse. He liked the head mouse. He could do that. We did talk about eye gaze, but that was a little too cumbersome for him. So that kind of worked out. And then the other recommendation seems fairly straightforward. It was a bidet. And this one we did recommend the wash and the dry features on this bidet. So anyway, that was Edward. Again, if there's any questions about him. If not, I think we've got a couple more examples we can look at. All right, so Cousin It. This was a really interesting session. Really, a very interesting family, I will say. So Cousin It has, I wrote on here limited verbal communication, but the fact is that's he can talk kind of a mile a minute. But he can't really communicate outside of his family. So that's part of the issue. Surprisingly enough, he has reliable transportation. He has some difficulty lifting more than 10 pounds. And he recently got this office job. And so he was struggling, of course, to communicate with his coworkers and to do some of the kind of just getting around and doing the small tasks in the office. He can type, but that lifting was difficult, and communication was basically his greatest barrier. So to overcome that, we looked at some communication devices. Now, this particular family, I think they're pretty much outside the kind of the medical and insurance realms that most of us use. So they were looking at private pay. I actually think they take care of most of their healthcare needs on their own, which is interesting. So Cousin It, we really decided that he would benefit from either an app, a communication app, or a dedicated device. So the way that those can go out is we either would do a demonstration or a formal evaluation to find the best option. So formal evaluations commonly go through insurance. So we decided that just a demonstration showing Cousin It and the family members the kind of the benefits and the challenges of each option. And and then looking at a variety of apps and a small variety of dedicated devices. So we were able to go through those and really help him find the best fit that would be easy for him to kind of communicate with his coworkers in that timely manner. And like again, these do take some training and some support. And so we had actually some of the kids in the family are really good with technology, and they're going to make sure that Cousin It can keep that going. And he is highly motivated because he has a lot to say. All right, and then we looked at some other supports. So a reacher was a good option for him because he was struggling to reach some of the things at work. We made sure that there was access to lower filing cabinets. A lot of the horizontal filing cabinets are lower. We looked at the doors to work. Recommended the push button, again, partly for the weight, also for his shorter stature. And then just little things like step stools to a sink. This is really hard to lower. And so having something simple like a step stool, you can even get a one-step stool with a handle. So that's a really nice option, or a two-step with a handle. So just some simple accommodations like that made it very doable for him at work. All right. We do have one more. Oh, yeah, the count. So the count was very interesting. And he although he's up there in years, he hasn't worked a lot. And I think it is partly because he does struggle with personal relationships. So he's been, I don't actually know, not that it's my business, how he made his money in the past, but he was looking for part-time employment. But there were some concerns about his ability to relate to others. And I would kind of maybe like similar to somebody with autism, except he had pretty intense eye contact. So anyway, it was just he could make people uncomfortable, I think, with some of his the way he interacted. So we looked at that. He has a pretty strict schedule. He strongly prefers working nights, but he does have good attention to detail, and he's good with numbers, his account. So we did look at a few accommodations for him as he is looking for work. So we were talking about, like, he needs to look for some place with flexible work hours. He doesn't mind working more in the winter, and so we counted that as a plus for somebody who could work more in the winter. We talked about working from home would be a good option for him. We did talk about really limiting his face-to-face communication. Again, he can tend to, when he has face-to-face communication, like nearly make people dizzy. So we, said, like, email communication, a lot of us tend to like jump around and just, kind of, I barge into my coworkers' offices and like, oh, I have this question right now. So we really encourage him to like be forthright with his coworkers and encourage email communication for maybe exclusively to communicate with him. And he could get transcripts of staff meetings with something like Otter AI, so he doesn't have to be in a staff meeting. And then there's apps that can help. So there's the app I have shown here is ADHD Life Hacks for Adults. And it really does help with some relationship parameters. And so that was something that, like I said, he pretty strongly struggles with. And so, we looked at this app and a couple of others to help support Mr. Dracula with when he does have to interact with folks. So Those are the four that I found interesting. I thought maybe this October you might find them interesting. So if there's any questions, I think that's my last slide. Okay. Oh yeah, there are some resources. So if you are looking to go, looking for work and maybe struggling in any areas, you're supporting somebody, always feel free to reach out to us. Our website is at.mo.gov. Ask Jan is a great resource for workplace accommodations. And there's always Great Plains ADA Center. They have helpful information about what is required under the law and things like that. So I guess I have not talked as long as I thought I might. And so we'll wrap up, but we have plenty of time for questions if anybody has any.
I'll just go through these last couple slides really quickly, unless Scout, you have anything to add. These are in here every time, and they get added to the follow-up email afterwards. So we won't go too much into depth with this, but these are some funding sources for assistive technology within Missouri. Most of them are more generalizable than Missouri as well, but some are state specific. And then this was just some of Missouri Assistive Tech's programs that they have. I don't know, Scout, if you wanted to add anything about any of those.
We also have, demonstration and reuse programs, which are great and offered all around the state at various locations. But yeah, if you haven't gone to our website, at.mo.gov, I do encourage you to hop on there and kind of look around and, check it out. There's a lot of, one of the places I always like to point out when I do have time is the resource tab across the top of our homepage. There are so many resources in that resource tab that sometimes you don't even need us because, there's just so much information there, but feel free to reach out to us.
All right. And then questions and reflections. I'm going to go ahead and look in the Q&A really quickly and see what's going on in there. So yes, we do send out a recording of this. We post them to our YouTube on the Charting the Life course YouTube channel. You can find all of the previous tech series and benefit series that we've done. They both have their own playlists on our channel. So you can view all the past ones there. And then as long as you're on our listserv, we send out a link to the recording and a PDF of the slides, as well as any other resources that we talked about during the session. And then we also have a question, which I might need a little clarification from who asked this, asking if there is a basic assessment to do with an individual that's just considering work but hasn't been yet offered a job. Were you wondering about like general planning about that, or was that like a tech specific question? Just so that we could better answer that for you.
And then they also asked us to kind of announce that financial loans for assistive technology through Missouri Assistive Technology are individual. They're loans to individuals. And so we do have a program called the Show Me Loan program, and that is a financial loan program to fund assistive technology. And so an individual or family member can apply for that. And then we have device loans, which is where individuals or like teachers or any other kind of support person can borrow equipment. So those are two different programs there. And so a 4 to 5 question assessment is what this person is asking for. So I would say on my side, if it's 4 to 5 questions about technology, it really would be, the strengths and weaknesses and what are this is for considering work. Yeah, I would really look at the strengths and weaknesses and kind of, build from there, and what kind of job, and just build from there.
Yeah, I will also really quickly pull up the um, employment guide again, just since everything is in one spot. But um, so for what worked in the past or what didn't work, what you would want to use as far as charting the life course goes, would be our trajectory. This one in here is an employment trajectory, but we also have just a basic trajectory on our website. Any of the tools or resources that are on our website are free, open to use. You can download it, print it. You can even download it and fill it in as a PDF. But this is going to ask you about your general vision for a good life. So, things that you want in your life and things that you don't want in life. And then from there, you fill in past life experiences that either supported your vision or that took you away from your vision. And then also what's happening currently. Are there things that are happening better now that are pushing you towards that goal? Or are there things that are happening differently now that are taking you away from that goal? So that would
Right.
cover
And
most of, sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
no, I was going to say that's pretty much the perfect kind of tool. So it's not specific questions, but you let that individual kind of focus on what's important to them, and like what, like just like you're asking, what has worked in the past or not worked in the past would come out with this kind of tool.
Right. And I also will say, I mean, I guess none of the documents really go along with like a specific set of questions or like a specific, I guess, kind of like script. The idea with the charting life course framework and tools is that they're discussion documents. So even if, the trajectory brings up other things that the individual wants to talk about, then, it's a good place for conversation. The other thing I will show in here that could kind of help, kind of like just figuring, like getting to know the person so that you know what they like, what they're interested in, especially if you're in the beginning stages of looking for a job, so that you even know what kind of job that they're looking for or what they're not looking for. Filling out the profile, what their strengths are, what's important to them, and how they feel that they're best supported. Because one of the things of charting the life course is important to and important for. Um, Something that I like to do to support myself might not be viewed by Scout as what he thinks is the best way to support me. So, you
Right.
know, making sure that you're getting both perspectives, everything, person centered, incredibly important. So making sure that you're getting their perspective on what is important to them, how to support
Right.
them.
Just
Um,
just like Professor McGonagall. Yep.
right. Yes.
Angelina, somebody did ask how they can find this document,
Yes.
because we don't have a regular chat. If you could
Right.
go through that one more time.
Yeah. One other thing I
And
will point out
oh, go ahead.
also, um, the integrated support star could also be a place for that. Probably less of figuring out, if you're in the beginning stages, less of figuring out what they like. This would probably be more of um, once you're thinking about a job, a specific job, or it could be general, what kind of supports you would need for that job. Um,
Right.
Filling
Those
out the
communication.
star to get that perspective. But so I will pull up the website, make sure I
Yeah.
think I'm
And
sharing the
while
right
you
screen.
do that, if you don't mind, I'm going to answer Lisa's questions,
Yeah.
or question she had. Do you have any thoughts about whether AT should be purchased by the individual or the company they are working for? What are the pros and cons? Um, what's the responsibility to provide? If the person leaves employment, they cannot take the equipment with them, things like that. So, I would say one of the best resources for that is probably Ask Jan. That is what they do. but when a person is employed, at any point they can ask for an accommodation, and the employer is not required to provide the accommodation that's requested, but they are required to help that employee explore those options and help them successfully work. So there are some complexities to it, but basically the person with a disability does have a right to request an accommodation at any time, and unless it is an undue burden, that employer is often responsible for providing that. Now, people are also, like Lisa's pointing out, you often can't take an accommodation with you if you leave. So some people do prefer to bring their own, or sometimes it's just easier, or they might start with their own, and then the employer might get something. So there are lots of ways to go about that.
All right, so as far as how to find the document, I'll show you now, but also in the email that we send out afterwards as a follow-up, I will have the attached documents downloaded on there, and then also have the link in there. But you'll want to go to lifecoursetools.com. That is our main website. For the employment-specific tools that I showed, under Life Course Library, you'll go to Exploring the Life Domains, and then there's one that says Daily Life and Employment. That brings you to this page. This employment guide here all the way to the right is what I was showing you today. And then the 3 documents in front of it are pulled out tools from there. So there's an employment specific star, and then an employment specific trajectory, both for exploring and planning. And then there's also the portfolios down here. There is, again, both exploring and planning at those different stages for the individual. And then this last one here, all the way to the right, is for the family perspective. And then just for the general tools, if we're not looking at specifically employment, under Life Course Library, if you go to Foundational Tools and then Person-Centered, that's where all of the general tools are going to be. You'll find the integrated support star, the trajectory, and then there's a couple other ones as well that we didn't dive into. Here's those trajectories and the star, and then there's a couple other things here. And like I said, any of this is free for anybody to use. Download it, print it as you please. Yeah. And
some amazing resources. We have one more question, and it is about AT. So the person is saying, I think it's best to at least try out AT during the exploration process so that you're ready to tell the employer what the person needs and that the person is already experienced using it. And I could not agree more. I absolutely agree. The more empowered the individual is when they go in to interview for a job or going to start that job, the more they say, yes, I can successfully do this job by using Dragon Naturally Speaking and this type of mouse. I am ready to do this work. I am skilled at this. It gives that individual confidence, and it gives the employer the confidence as well. Okay, I know how to support this individual who wants to work for me. Let's go. So I like I said, I could not agree more. And I often I'll do a little plug for our Tap for Internet program. So there's lots of tools out there to support computer access through that Tap program. It is all for home use. But if you know somebody who needs a program like Zoom Text or JAWS or Kurzweil or Co-writer, something like that, to be successful, to do some of those distance communication tasks, then you can get that through us, through that TAP-I program, learn those things, become skilled, go into your interview with more confidence. And lots of other programs support that as well, but the TAP-I just seems to go really well with employment. Okay, any other questions? What do we have? 5 minutes left.
yes, we will see if anything else comes in, but until then, I will go ahead and go over our last couple slides here real quick. Um,
Oh, okay.
it appears my slides did not update. We
Oops.
will be having a benefit series on November 8th. That's the second Wednesday of every month from 12:30 to 1:30. And more information about that is coming. And then for our technology series, we shifted it for the holidays. That way it's not during Thanksgiving week. Our technology series will be on November 15th. And that's going to be AT for hobbies and pets.
We're very excited because that's predominantly going to be on accessible gaming. So that is the hobby. It will be accessible gaming. So if you haven't taken off yet, tell your friends. If anyone is interested in accessible gaming, we have a guest speaker we're very excited about, and we hope you join us for that. And then we're not doing it in December.
Yes, we will be kicking off the new year in January. And then just other couple of things real quick. I don't think I saw any other questions come in. IHG also houses the Missouri Family to Family Statewide Resource Center. They have Good Life groups that are interactive peer learning collaboratives that are for hands-on learning for self-advocates and family members. Those are super awesome resources. Their website is there. It's mofamilytofamily.org. They also have quarterly stakeholders meetings. I believe there's one coming up in December. And then also on the website that I showed, if you're interested in learning more about charting the life course, we have a ton of training and workshops on there. We have our Life Course Foundations webinar, which is a free introductory webinar. Super great place to start. Those are each hosted by different ambassadors, so you get a little bit of a different perspective depending on who's running it. And then we also have our skill building series, and we also have ambassador series. Those each get more in depth. And all the information for those can be found on the website. And then if there are any further questions, that should be Scout's information. Those last slides did not update, unfortunately. So if you have any questions, my email is there. I can connect you to Scout. But that is all. And if there are no further questions, thank you all for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you in November.
All right. Bye, everybody.